bit, we adopt a tradition and culture that is based first on survival, the learnings and teachings of our elders who pass it down to us. As they pass it down to us, we have this great advantage. Anyone ever watch those survival shows where they put a person out on like Vancouver Island by themselves and they leave after 5 or 6 days? We laugh at them. They come in as people who claim to be able to survive in the wilderness, and they leave very quickly because they're scared of bears. I have 3 bears that come to my house regularly. I can look out of my son's bedroom window at one of them, wrap the window, and they take off and run. The grizzlies don't tend to come by, fortunately, but if they do, we have bear spray and 10mm Glocks. I'd ask for a 10mm Glock if I were in one of those survival shows, and I'm not worried about bears at all at that point. Our tradition and culture allows us to survive in the environment that we're initially in, and our elders are the ones who perpetrated that, but it's not about age. In 1900, the average age of Tlingit people when they passed away was 33. That's just an average. That was the entire U.S. It was about that age when people passed away. Yes, you have people who are definitely old, but what we considered elders were those who had the wisdom and passed it on to their descendants, allowed them to survive. And I operate according to a 7th generation principle. I'm going to go through and show you what Tlingit country looked like. You've covered a part of that, so up towards the top is Skagway. We're now headed down towards the bottom, which is Ketchikan. That's a lot of territory, especially when the propulsion system is totally up to par and you're moving a little bit slower than you need to be. But that's our traditional Tlingit country. And the way that we survived prior to Westernization was with 7th generation thinking. That's a Haudenosaunee concept, but it applies across all of Indian country. We don't live for ourselves. I am the 4th generation. My ancestors are the first 3. Great-grandparents, grandparents, parents, then there's me. 5th, 6th, and 7th are my children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Our philosophy is that we live for our descendants, so we're looking down to our great-grandchildren. What kind of a society do we want for them? Our relationship with the earth, our relationship with the animals that we harvest and eat, with the plants, is all about perpetuating the best that we can for our descendants. That's true all through Tlingit country and up through Alaska, off into Canada. Interestingly enough, a couple hundred years ago, we didn't have those borders. We considered ourselves as members of clans with relationships to lots of people. One of our relationships happens to be to the Navajo. I wear around my neck a polar bear claw necklace. I wear it because one of my Princeton fellow classmates, former vice president of the Navajo Nation and a Navajo holy man, Rex Lee Jim, called me up one day and said, "Patrick, I had a dream about a white bear." "Oh, and you were in it." "Stranger, can you get me a bear claw necklace?" I said, "I'll see what I can do." When I did find bear claw necklaces, it was from another friend who happens to be a Nukiak and the owner of a gift shop in Anchorage. He had 30 claws, and I said, "I would like 2 necklaces." My tribal sister appropriated one, and her son appropriated another one, so we had 4 made. So there are 4 of these necklaces sitting around that were handmade by Leon, and they represent that dream. But it was interesting because our Athabascan roots have an origin story with the Navajo and the White Mountain Apache. They are Athabascan. They speak a similar language to Athabascans. So I'm proud to wear that necklace, especially since it's associated with a holy man or a shaman or a chief, all of which I am related to. So those oral histories that we have, our stories, they are also entrusted to the elders. You need to learn those stories at the feet of other elders until you can repeat them verbatim, and then you get permission to go tell them. But you can only tell the stories from your own clan. You can't tell other clan stories. So when we began our migration, it was after these two great ice sheets began to melt. This was the glacial maximum, and you'll see a little line between the Cordilleran and the Laurentide. They have found houses in there that are attributed to indigenous people 15,000 plus years ago. So that may have been a way of entry into North America, but there are also theories that we may have come here by boat. What I do know is that my clan moved from interior British Columbia. Again, there wasn't a British Columbia when they did this, but they came from that territory, and their migration story went down to the coast of Alaska, the Nass River. Now, I have never been to Prince Rupert, and I was a little bit excited to hear that they were going to take me off the airplane take me off the ship and put me on a plane in Prince Rupert, because it's very close to the Nass River, which is the place that my ancestors migrated down. They migrated down guided by a female shaman. So when you're looking here down by Dixon Entrance, Queen Charlotte Sound, right up in here is the Nass River, close to Metlakatla, Tsimshian territory. And where those two hash marks are, we're going to pass by that. That is Prince of Wales Island, where after going down the Nass River and into southeast Alaska waters, Dixon Entrance, my part of the clan settled on St. Philip's Island, which is just off of Prince of Wales Island, very close to what is represented by those two marks, On Your Knees Cave. We found an ancestor that lived there 10,300 years ago, so we know that we've lived here for at least that long. And then we found this fish trap underwater. Now, one of the things that happens when there is a great melt of the glaciers and the ice is that what used to be at sea level is sometimes 400 feet below sea level now. And that's that fish trap that used to be above ground. On Your Knees Cave, 10,300 years ago, was probably fairly high. And DNA test has proven that On Your Knees Cave man, they call him Ashoka Ka, is a part of us. He is the ancestor who came before us. And guess what guided the shaman from British Columbia when she got lost across ice fields down the Nass River and into southeast Alaska? A white bear. It's a grizzly bear. They do have shades of white in grizzly bears. And you know what was great about our female shaman? She stopped to ask directions. If it had been a male shaman, we might still be lost. and so the polar bear claws that showed up in Rexley's vision is directly connected to me, and it was appropriate for him to ask whether I could come up with bear claws for his necklace. We traveled once we got to the Nass River by boat. This is a Kwakayudal boat, but they're all pretty much the same. They're carved out of one tree. This is a very large one. The further south you are as a tribe, the bigger your canoes were, because the trees up where I'm from in Dry Bay are not very big. And those are smaller 1 or 2 or 3 person canoes. And then on the right side are Badarkas. Those are used by Aleuts. They were incredible hunters. The Russians impressed them to hunt the sea otter. That's why the sea otter almost went extinct. My dad's ancestors were so proficient that they could hunt out almost every sea otter that existed, being forced to by the Russians, so that there were only a couple of pockets of sea otters left, one down in California, one out in Chain, and from there you see all the many rafts of sea otters that occupy southeast Alaska today. In addition to being a people of the water and of the rivers, we're people of the forests. My great uncle Ray Smith told me that my people from Dry Bay walked couple thousand miles down to San Francisco area. And one of the questions I get asked is, how long did it take